One of those points in med school where all I'm really doing is working and then study when I come home. So here's a video of me studying. Specifically, it's more geared to USMLE stuff because I'm kind of sort of trying to prep for that, given that we have to start taking it soon. But yeah, here it is, and just watch me Anki, and if anything, Anki with me, and maybe learn a thing or two, or maybe teach me a thing or two in the comments. And let's do it. Let's just study, guys. Anki session, let's go. All right, so it's 10 p.m. My Anki just reset, so I'm going to try to get a bit of a head start because I have to wake up early tomorrow and I know I'm going to be at the hospital for a while, so let's just get straight into it. As I said, Master Sketchy is my USMLE deck, so it has a lot of the stuff I'm studying for the USMLEs, and you'll see here it kind of includes the stuff I've learned. I usually try to triage this deck first when I'm studying because some step is coming up for me, but the other deck that I also pay attention to is my clerkships deck. And all of this together usually leads to about, I'd say at this point, I think I'm at 16, almost 17,000 cards. Yeah, so about 17,000 cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with my Master Sketchy deck, and we'll go from there, okay? All right. So thyroid blank carcinoma invades local structures. I believe this is anaplastic. Yeah, so this is anaplastic. I just learned this today, and you'll see here I kind of wrote myself a note about the different types of thyroid cancers, and I also gave myself a brief note from the video I took it from, which is the osmosis video. Thyroid blank carcinoma is this is anaplastic also. So you'll see here I took this from the Zonky deck. It includes a nice picture. It also includes my note right there, and it includes the image. Most common form of sideroblastic anemia, it's actually due to an ALAS. That's the enzyme that actually is utilizing iron to integrate into heme to ultimately create a protoporphyrin ring. And you'll see right here, I included the entire image of what's wrong. So if this is wrong, then iron can't get integrated into heme, and so you end up getting inability to make heme, which leads to anemia because heme is a part of red blood cells. So you can't make heme, you can't make red blood cells, you become anemic. What are the two presentations of polycystic kidney disease? Well, you have an autosomal recessive version and you have an autosomal dominant version. The problem with the autosomal recessive version is that it becomes pretty penetrant early on, which means you express the defect very early on. With the autosomal dominant one, you actually don't express it as early, so you actually get the disease presenting much more later on. So in this case, the adult form. And you'll see right here that this is actually a snippet from the Kaplan-Q bank. I just included a snapshot of what the right answer was and what the wrong answer was when I was learning about this particular topic. The 8-4 translocation is characteristic of what hematologic malignancy? How does this translocation alter protein expression? So 8-14, the way I remember this is 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is the number of letters that's in c-Myc. And c-Myc is an oncogene that ultimately is involved in Burkitt, because c-Myc and Burkitt. So c-Myc is linked with Burkitt lymphoma, and it's linked with Burkitt lymphoma, and this translocation alters protein expression because c-Myc, as I said, is a gene that helps the cell go from G1 to S. And specifically, it gets translocated to chromosome 14, and chromosome 14 is the heavy chain promoter. So the promoter for the heavy chain is always being expressed, and then you put the c-Myc gene right next to it, and so you now always express c-Myc, which means you get cells that are always going through the cell cycle, which leads to Burkitt lymphoma. And you'll see right here this explains everything I just said. And the reason it explains everything I just said is because I made this card in a way that I actually remember everything this just said. And you'll see I include a lot of things here. You'll see like in my 8 c-Myc, 2 times 4 letters, chromosome 8. I also wrote here 14 because Ig heavy, and then Ig heavy is 7 letters, and because it's heavy means you're fat AF. So whatever it takes for me to remember this. You'll see how stupid sometimes I have to be. And this is kind of why it's called the starry sky lymphoma. In obstructive lung disease, FEV1 over FVC. Obstructive means it's obstructed on the way out, which means it's tough for you to get things out, which means when you're trying to do a forced expiratory volume, it's going to be decreased. So right there, you'll see right here it's decreased. This also includes a nice little image. The precursor to penile. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. You probably will not want to see this. Prognosis of anaplastic carcinoma. Well, just from the name, anaplastic means that it's, doesn't look good. It's out of control growth. It's really bad, tends to metastasize. So it's actually not that good. It's poor. Treatment for a patient with Takayasu arteritis. Takayasu arteritis, just by the fact that it's named by a Japanese man, implies that it was founded in a Japanese population, and specifically with Japanese women under the age of 50 usually, and the treatment is always steroid. Anything rheumatological is steroids, because this is inflammation of the arteritis. And you'll see again, I learned this entire topic from a YouTube video, and so I included a nice screenshot of the YouTube video, and I also included my general understanding of it, which is, you know, this is pulseless disease that causes claudication and whatnot. So I always, as I said, always include a snippet. So when I'm learning this, actively learning it, I actually have a full schema. And that's why you'll see when I'm explaining these things to you guys, I really do know what's happening and how to answer a lot of these questions. Let's keep going. So Graves' disease is associated with, it's called exophthalmos. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. Basically, is when your eye bulges out a lot. And you'll see right here, this includes a picture of it, and this because there's T cells behind your eye that express the receptor for TSH, and this disease is caused by the fact that you have antibodies that bind to the TSH receptor, and because those cells are then ultimately activated, they release a bunch of factors that ultimately leads to a bunch of edema and swelling, which leads to your eyes popping out like that, which is what Graves' disease is. It's a hyperthyroid disease. Takayasu arteritis is a form of giant vessel vasculitis, and again, I included this nice little image. The blank phenomenon describes thyroid toxicosis in a patient with iodine deficiency who is made iodine replete. Oh, I know this one. I just learned this. It's called the Jod-Bakewit phenomenon? No, it's the Jod-Basedow. I gotta remember that. You'll see how I remember it. It's the opposite of Wolff-Chaikoff. And the way I remember the Chaikoff is because I got a Chaikoff award when I graduated, and it made me feel like I could relax and chill, as opposed to this one, Jod-Basedow. Think about Steve Jobs always being over the top. That's how I remember this, even though I clearly don't remember it as well. So this is one I'm still learning. So von Willebrand disease presents with what? Presents with decreased normal platelet count. It doesn't affect platelets, it affects von Willebrand factor. And you'll see here too, I got this image from a YouTube video I watched because I actually learned this from a YouTube video. So it presents with a normal platelet count because it affects the von Willebrand factor, which is responsible for platelets coming together. So I actually knew this one. What demographic is classically affected by Takayasu's arteritis? It's actually, I already told you the answer to this. Yeah, Asian females under the age of 50. There we go. Biopsy of a patient with giant cell arteritis reveals caseating fibrosis, but it reveals that in a non-linear pattern. So to actually, basically, temporal arteritis is when the inflammation of the carotid, specifically external carotid artery, which includes a lot of branches. There's an external temporal artery, which is the last branch of the external carotid artery, and when that gets inflamed, it leads to a massive headache, and it also leads to these fibroses, which, you know, intimal fibrosis. But okay, maybe I don't know this one, so I'm gonna say I don't know this one because I clearly got it wrong. I thought it was caseating fibrosis, but just goes to show you, you got to learn. So the most common subtype of von Willebrand disease presents with decreased von Willebrand factor levels. Yep, type 1. High levels of I- inhibits the I believe it's organification. Yeah, I know what organification is, so I'll move on. Now this is actually a Netter's card. This is for anatomy, and this specifically is the left gastric artery, and so this is also a pre-made deck. If you don't know about this deck, let me know and I'll make a video about it, but this is one of those things that I have to learn as well, so I'm gonna left gastric artery. Yep. What 2 gene mutations are linked with the risk of thyroid papilloma? It's BRAF and RET. Yep. See that? All right. What are the key spirometry readings for restrictive diseases? So restrictive diseases in the lung are when you have trouble getting air in. I think we had a card earlier about obstructive diseases, which is when you have trouble getting air out. Restrictive is when you have trouble getting air in. And specifically what happens in this case is that your lung physically just gets smaller because you can't get anything in there. So the total lung capacity, TLC, goes down. FEV1, which is the amount you can exhale in 1 second, also goes down. FVC, which is the amount you can exhale completely. So when you inhale and then you exhale as much as you can, that's the FVC. That goes down a lot. That goes down much more than the FEV1. So what ends up happening is all 3 of these go down, but the ratio of FEV1 over FVC increases because FVC goes down more than FEV1. And you'll see right here, it kind of includes that. Okay. Von Willebrand factor presents with, I believe it presents with an normal PT, and it presents with a normal or increased PTT because von Willebrand factor binds to factor 8, which is involved in the intrinsic pathway of clotting, and that's linked with the PTT time. And you'll see right here, I was right, yay! Blank lymphoma is a neoplastic proliferation of intermediate size B cells. I believe this is Burkitt lymphoma. Yep, see that? Included that as well. Okay. What is shown at 9? Again, this is one of those Netter's anatomy cards, and this at 9, I believe that might be the gastric bubble, but I'm not positive. Yep, yeah. And you'll see I also didn't know what the gastric bubble was, so I included a nice quote of what I found on the internet of what it exactly was. In myocardial cell, high intracellular calcium binds to troponin C, causing blank to move out of the way, which allows actin and myosin interaction. So, in a myocardial cell, high intracellular. Oh, it causes the tropomyosin to move out of the way because tropomyosin is on top of myosin, hiding the actin binding sites. So when the troponin binds to the calcium, the tropomyosin moves away, and you'll see right there. I'll do one more, and then we'll call it a day. What is the most common form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma? Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, most common form is actually going to be, I don't actually know this. I'd say follicular lymphoma, I don't know. Oh, well, see, I don't know that. Diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Okay, well, this is good to know. I'm sorry for the imagery, but I'm going to end with this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This is how I kind of study for the USMLE every day, kind of doing a bunch of these cards, getting my bearings straight, and every day I add 1 or 2 topics. Like today I added thyroid cancers, as you could tell. But yesterday I added polycythemia vera, so I'll add a couple topics here and there, but I'm also studying for clerkships. And you'll see, you won't see me do it now because this was more of a USMLE study session, but in the future, if you want, I do a lot of clerkship review too because it's a lot more clinical knowledge, which is entirely different. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're liking the ANKI videos because we should totally study together. And that's that. I'll see you guys in the next video.